What's your name?
I'm Siri. Pleased to meet you.
My nickname is the Google Assistant.
The name's Bixby. I'm Alexa.
I've talked and made jokes in the past, mostly along the lines of Google Assistant is clearly the best virtual assistant, and then Bixby, Siri, and Alexa are various levels of far behind. But last time I did this type of test was 2017. So I figured we should revisit this a little bit, retest things, and figure out if Google Assistant still actually is the best virtual assistant on a smartphone right now. Also, shout out to Clippy, the original virtual assistant, whose ugly Christmas sweater from Microsoft is actually what inspired this one, the MKBHD 8-bit drip, which you can get while supplies last. They're very limited, but they're at shop.mkbhd.com. Link below. But I decided to start with the simple questions. You know, the three things that you ask from an assistant the most often, I think, are the weather, timers, and facts. So they all do fine with the weather question. Probably the number one query for me anyway. And then for the most part, they were also the same, pretty quick, with just asking standard facts. Although for some reason they did disagree on the height of one person. But then for timers, for one weird reason, Siri cannot do multiple timers at the same time on the iPhone. If you have a timer running and ask for a second timer, it asks you every time if you want to replace the first timer. Pretty basic stuff that I'm not sure why Apple hasn't fixed yet. Especially because you can set multiple timers at the same time with Siri on a HomePod mini. But anyway, I don't want to make you watch a whole bunch of back-to-back-to-back questions and answers because, as I admit, it was kind of boring when I was doing all of that testing, but I'm going to share some examples of what I found with you and then some of the highlights of the testing and the way it answers these questions and you interact with them. So here we go. So with all the latest software updates on every assistant, all being asked the exact same questions, asked to do the exact same tasks with the same phrasing and on the same Wi-Fi connections, most often the fastest one to answer was Google Assistant or Siri. But Siri and Bixby, in my experience, did have the most instances of like hanging and pausing and not really answering a question. Kind of like acting like they had a poor internet connection, even though they didn't. Not sure why they did that. A restart of the phone helped with the Bixby one. Siri just kind of does it randomly. Not sure why, but that's a real fact. But then with straight up fact questions, there is no runaway winner, which I think is a good thing actually. So if you ask something that's easily Googleable or on Wikipedia, something like, how tall is the Taj Mahal? They can all get it. Or if you ask, what do whales eat? They all had some type of answer for me that was basically the same. Siri, I found, relies the most heavily on Wikipedia as a source for almost all of its answers. And then when it does have to go outside of that, it just kind of throws up a web search link, often with Wikipedia at the top. It says, look what I Googled for you. Now, Google Assistant is the most likely to give you a nice visual and slightly more information than you asked for. Bixby is powered by Google, so I would say it's the most likely to read what Google Assistant reads word for word. And then Alexa is the most likely to throw in some extra information about your latest Amazon order or something random. So facts, they can all do great. Then there is what I call the device control category, because these are assistants that are on your smartphones. They're smart speakers as well, but on your phone, you'd like to be able to help you out with things while you can't use your hands. And for this, there was a runaway winner. Actually two, and that would be Google Assistant and Bixby. So with the most basic stuff, they're pretty much all fine. They can all change your screen brightness, for example, except Alexa, but they can also all open the camera or pretty much any app on your phone with a voice command. That's easy. Setting an alarm is light work. If you ask it actually to open the App Store, they all open their respective app stores, and actually Bixby opens the Samsung Galaxy Store, which is kind of cheeky. But when it starts to get more complex, Google and Bixby start to walk away from the others. So if I ask it to take a selfie, Siri and Alexa will just open the camera, but Bixby and Google actually open the camera, switch to the selfie camera, and start a self timer and actually take a selfie. If I want to say play Squid Game on Netflix, both Google and Bixby will actually open the Netflix app, find the first episode of Squid Game I haven't seen yet or wherever I left off, and start playing it. Siri just opens the app and Alexa is lost. If I say start a voice recording or a voice memo for Siri, again, Google and Bixby open the voice recording app and actually start that recording. Siri again just opens the app and again, Alexa is lost. These voice commands, when they work, are legitimately faster than I would have been able to do it by hand for the most part. And there's a bunch of other device-specific stuff that Samsung's programmed into Bixby where it can reach into apps and perform specific commands within them. So if there are apps you use a lot, this can potentially save you a lot of time. Bixby was also great at this last time I did it, and also Alexa is unsurprisingly the worst at device control because they aren't making their own phone. These aren't Amazon phones, so the vertical integration is great with Siri and Google Assistant and Bixby, not with Alexa. Not a shocker there. What might be a little bit of a surprise, though, is conversationalism. Who is the coach of the Phoenix Suns? How tall is he? Did he play in the NBA? What team did he play for? So you can see Siri tapped out after about 4 questions in a row about the same thing, but Google Assistant is incredible at this. It's really, really good at remembering the context and the subject of a natural conversation and carrying that on through a bunch of questions in a row. Where is the Taj Mahal? Okay. How tall is it? How many meters is that? What is it made of? See, again, Google remembers what we're talking about. When is The Weeknd's birthday? What's their latest album? What's his real name? So basically, if you're asking a bunch of questions in a row, or if you have one subject that you want to basically research through the voice assistant or get a bunch of answers on, your best bet is definitely Google Assistant. And then one more interesting thing from the queries that I asked, just as far as getting pictures. When you ask for pictures of something, like dogs for example, they can all search the web, except Bixby didn't, and Alexa, which is looking for an Amazon Photos app for some reason. But when you say, show me my pictures of dogs, Google actually opens and searches in my own photos album for my own pictures of dogs. So I did a bunch of other testing like this with a bunch of other different questions, different styles of questions, follow-up questions and things like that. And I've come to a pretty solid conclusion. So if you're wondering, which one is the best? Marquez, you did all these tests. Which one came out as number 1? Only one thing became exceptionally clear through all this testing, which is that Alexa is clearly the worst. Is clearly far behind the others as a smart assistant on a phone. Even if, unless maybe you're already deep in the Amazon Alexa ecosystem with everything working perfectly in your smart home. Matter of fact, this really is an ecosystem question almost as much as it is a skills question for the assistants, because if you are super all in on one of these smart home ecosystems, that actually could answer the question for you. Of course, if you're all in with HomeKit, then Siri and an iPhone is your only option to view your cameras and see your doorbell ringing and turn on your lights and all that stuff. But if you are doing the same with Google Home and Google Assistant, then you're there. Now, the next gen Matter standard may change all of this. It may actually make this section irrelevant. Maybe leave a thumbs up on this video or a comment if you're interested in a video about that specifically. But for now, with these different silos of home ecosystems, that's pretty important. But I'll still say, from my most common experiences and queries and the things that are most useful, across every single phone, iPhones or Android phones, the most useful assistant is still Google Assistant. And that's multiplied if you also happen to have a Pixel phone, because then you also get, call screening and hold for me and all those extra Pixel features. But in general, Google Assistant is most likely to be fast. It's most likely to give a good, well-sourced answer. It's most likely to be conversational and remember context longer. And it has a bunch of third-party plugs, tons of app support. And I also happen to have built my smart home in the Google Home world, so it's great. Now for the second best, I'm very tempted to say Bixby. Of course though, this is only relevant if you have a Samsung phone, and also it is basically saying all of the same first query responses that Google Assistant was, minus the ability to talk to a smart speaker, since, Samsung would probably like us to forget about that. But I am gonna have to put Siri in second place here. It's fine. It's okay. It's all right. It's fine. It's not great, but it is the most well plugged into Apple's ecosystem. So of course, if you're doing HomeKit stuff, it's going to work well there. It does support a smart speaker, which can do multiple timers if you're not doing stuff all the time on your phone. And it does support routines, which is like stacking a bunch of different commands into one action if you're willing to dig through the very convoluted Siri shortcuts interface. So that puts Bixby in third place, and Alexa is just bad. It's just bad on a phone. Like there was a phone a couple years ago, an HTC phone, where it was built in. So there was a Google Assistant and Alexa side by side on the same phone, and it worked kind of well back then, but that was years ago, and Alexa's just dead last on a phone right now, and Amazon knows it. Amazon is falling behind with Alexa, and if you're just starting to use assistants or put together a smart home or this type of stuff, I would say avoid things that are Alexa exclusive right now. But until then, let me know if you agree that Google Assistant still seems pretty far out in front, or maybe there are some specific features that you find the most useful in a virtual assistant. Let me know in the comments. Either way, channel sponsor Dbrand also would like you to know that they are relaunching the Damascus skin. They're bringing it back due to popular demand. It's got all this like crazy reflective holographic chaos. You can kind of skin whatever device you want to, so you can make it work. And you get a free triple black skin with your order, which is sick. I'll link it below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.